Welcome everyone. Let's just get my view here. There we go. So lovely to be with you and be together again. I'm looking out my window and seeing the snow coming down, and many of us are here on the, in the Washington area and on the East Coast where we got a big storm, and it's 6 or 8 inches of snow, I think, were expected here. So we'll see how much. I haven't been out yet, but I look forward to getting out there. And, so it's really good to see everyone. I'm just going to scroll through and welcome everyone. Many familiar faces. If you're new to this community, to the IMCW, the Center for Mindful Living, particularly warm welcome to you, and really glad that you can join us. And as you can do, as Pat gave instructions, I think in the chat, you can rename yourself to say where you're from if you'd like to. And one of the things I've been thinking about and kind of reflecting on is just the kind of the flow of the class. And a number of people said after we began with the meditation a couple of sessions ago that it was nice to kind of begin with the meditation and then move into having more of a talk, and then some movement, and then some sharing together, and finishing with a meditation and announcements at the end. And I thought I'd give that try that again today. We're actually beginning with the meditation. I'll just say a couple of words about kind of what I'm looking at as the theme for today. And it's actually the theme that I was talking on a little earlier this morning on Insight Timer. We were chatting a bit about this before the class started here. And sometimes, occasionally, I talk on the same theme here as I do there. And it worked out well this week to do it. And the theme really is the power of attention, and how, what a powerful and essential tool attention is, the way we use our attention, and the way we can focus our attention, and the way we can train our mind in paying attention. And it's an extraordinarily important skill. It's one that's tied very closely to our happiness, to our well-being, to our freedom, essentially. How we learn to use our attention, or how we train our mind to pay attention. I have to be very careful that once I start talking about it, I don't kind of launch into the thing. And so I'm just going to give the overview. And how it's not just about paying attention, though. I mean, that's kind of the skill that we're talking about, of like, noticing where your attention is and choosing where we put it. But it's also the quality of the attention. So you could call it more broadly than attention. You could call it compassionate awareness. That brings in the kindness that is an essential part of mindfulness. And you could call it wise mindfulness, because otherwise attention could be, the attention of a pickpocket who's kind of looking very, very attentive, very focused, in order to be able to steal your wallet, and that's not the quality. That's the attention, but it doesn't have the compassion, it doesn't have the wisdom, etc. Or somebody who's a burglar who's going to rob your house, is very hyper vigilant, but that's not that. There's something missing in the attention. So anyway, that's just a brief kind of little bit of an overview. But what I would like to do in the meditation today, and some of you, I've done this once or twice before, in sessions is in classes is kind of invite a kind of a moving around of the attention, because the more we can be aware of this skill, the skill of cultivating attention, the more beneficial it will be to us, and the more we can consciously train our mind in honing, if you like, attention, wise attention, skillful attention. So with that, I'd invite you to just find a comfortable, relaxed posture. You can close your eyes if that's comfortable. Let your attention come inward. Just make any adjustments in your posture to be as comfortable as you can be. Inviting the shoulders to relax. Letting the chest be open so you can breathe easily. Letting yourself just settle into being here. Taking your seat. Imagine, kind of think of the image of the Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree. You know, a posture that's relaxed, dignified, alert. Just being here, being present. Just be aware of your breathing. Breath is a really helpful barometer of our levels of stress on one side or levels of ease or relaxation on the other. Just being aware of your breathing. And you might consciously invite the breath to deepen as a way of relaxing the body and the mind and settling into being here. Nice, full, deep in-breath, filling the lungs, filling the chest. And then a long, slow out-breath, releasing, letting go. Imagine you're breathing out the stresses or tension, any tightness or tension you might be feeling. In-breath and out-breath. Breathing in, calming the body. Breathing out, calming the mind. See if you can invite a sense of ease as you bring awareness to the breath and breathe a little more deeply than normally. And whenever you're ready, just letting the breath come back to its natural rhythm. You could be lightly aware of your breathing, just to help you settle. You might invite a smile to the corners of your eyes and the corners of your mouth, inviting a smile to the face. Thich Nhat Hanh called this smile yoga. The smile sends a message to our brain and to our nervous system that we can relax, that we can be at ease. We don't have to be hypervigilant. We can relax the body and the mind. If it helps, you could think of a loved one or a dear friend, someone who easily makes you feel happy or joyful. See if you can connect with a sense of ease that comes with the smile, or can come with a smile. You might imagine or envision you're inviting the smile down into your body, into your heart area. Helping soften any tensions, relaxing the body and the mind. You could take a few moments to reflect on gratitude, things in your life that you feel grateful for. It might be just one or two things or a number of things. Things you appreciate, that you're thankful for. Maybe people in your life, loved ones, friends. Colleagues. People who enhance your life, give you things to be grateful for, thankful for. Maybe other things in your life. You know, in these difficult times, maybe things that make life a little bit easier, less stressful. Maybe having a place to live that's comfortable. Maybe a secure financial situation, if that's the case. Good health. You know, so many things that we can take for granted. So easy to be focused on what's wrong or what we think is wrong, what we don't have or feel that we need or we wish we had. So a lot of our energy, a lot of our attention can go into, wanting what we don't have or resisting what we do have. And it can be a powerful practice and a conscious shifting of attention to move out of the focus of what we lack or what we need to what we have. Even if things are really difficult for us, we'll probably be able to find some things that we're grateful for. And if you can, just take in how that feels in the body. If you think of a loved one or something in your life that you're grateful for, maybe your spiritual practice, let yourself take it in. And being able to come back to gratitude at any time, particularly if things are feeling difficult or challenging, to just reflect things we have, turn our attention in that direction. It's an extraordinarily powerful practice of gratitude. Just opening now to what's present in your experience. You might scan your consciousness, your body, your heart, your mind, And just notice what's present. Just notice what feelings in the body, sensations in the body you notice. You might notice what emotions or moods might be present right now. Notice if the mind is active, busy, or more calm or settled, or somewhere in between. So just bringing awareness to what's present for you, what's predominant for you in your experience. Just meeting whatever is present with acceptance and with kindness. Just holding whatever is here with kindness, with care, with acceptance. In this next part of the meditation, I'm going to invite you to pay attention, to just, if you like, bring attention to attention, bring awareness to, how we can use this power of attention. And I invite you just to kind of consciously shift from one focus to another over the coming few minutes. And feel free if this is not where you're at right now. If it doesn't feel helpful for you right now, just feel free to just do whatever your practice would normally be, just letting the words be in the background. See what's most helpful for you. But if it is helpful, you can just begin by just paying attention to your breathing. The breath just as it is. The body breathing, in breath and out breath. Just a kind, non-judging awareness of your experience of breathing, in breath and out breath. Notice the way that with intention, our attention can stay on the breath. Sometimes it might be a bit wobbly and the mind goes off into thought, but then we notice and we come back. So just intentionally bringing your attention to your breathing. Now, if you feel ready, you might just let your attention move from your breathing to feelings in your body. So you might consciously pay attention to the sensations in your feet. So let that be the focus. Maybe there's a kind of tingling or pressure where the feet touch the floor. Maybe there's coolness or warmth. Just letting the attention go to the sensations in the feet. And now, just let the attention go to the sensations in your hands. Notice what sensations, what feelings are present. Again, there may be some kind of tingling or numbness or warmth or pressure. Simply be aware, just pay attention to what sensations are present. You could shift your attention to the sensations in the chest area. There might be some tightness or squeezing or warmth, pressure, spaciousness, whatever's here. You could expand the awareness to the body as a whole and just notice what's present without focusing on a particular area. Just using this power of attention to the spotlight, put the spotlight on, a particular area, or more openly to a wider area. Now, if you feel ready, you might shift your attention to sound, like you're changing the channel on the radio, TV, to another station, now the station of sound. Just be open to whatever sounds are present in the area where you are. You might hear the sound of traffic around where you are, around your home, and maybe the sound of appliances nearby. Perhaps the sound of birds, maybe more close-in sounds, maybe sounds, the sound of my voice, sounds inside your own body, maybe digestive sounds or the sounds inside your ear. Just let sound be the focus of your attention. Maybe it's very quiet. You can pay attention to the space between the sounds. So letting sound be the focus, the object of your attention. Again, if you're ready, you could let the attention move from sound into emotions, moods. Just the kind of overall sense of well-being, satisfaction, happiness, on one side, or stress, worry, etc. on the other, or any emotions you're aware of, maybe strong or maybe more subtle. It might be a feeling of sadness behind the eyes or around the eyes. Or maybe there's a sense of joy around something if you think about it. Just let that field of emotions and moods be where you place your attention, just opening to what's present. And just meeting whatever's present with kindness, with acceptance. Just a compassionate awareness. Do one more change of the channel. Now, let your attention come to your thoughts. Without choosing to think, just imagine you're just watching out for thoughts. So it's kind of a receptive attention to thinking. Maybe you're thinking about thinking. Just notice that, just be aware that is thinking. So just being attentive to the rising of thoughts or thoughts when they have arisen. Just in this kind of receptive way. You might find the thoughts become a little more shy when you're on the lookout for them. They're less kind of running off and partying. You may find that just by consciously being aware of thinking, there can be a subsiding of thinking. So just notice how in each of these kind of movements, each of these areas, we're kind of shining a spotlight, either in a kind of more focused way or a kind of more broad way in a broader area on a particular, in a particular field of sound or breath or body or emotions or thoughts. Then maybe a final shift to just let your attention, excuse me, let your attention be open to the whole field of your experience without focusing in on anything in particular, just letting the awareness be open. So an open, spacious awareness, and just see what comes up, see what appears. In these final few minutes of the meditation, you could choose anywhere that you wanted to put your attention. Could be an open awareness, could be focused on the breathing, on your breathing, on the body, on the feelings, aware of emotions, aware of sounds. We can choose where we place our attention. And an important criterion is, what's going to be most helpful to me? What's most helpful right now? So if the mind is relatively calm and settled, it might be to just rest in an open awareness of whatever is coming up. That can be very calm and peaceful and just allow you to open to whatever's arising. But if the mind is very active, busy, it may be more helpful to focus on the breath. Stepping out of the stories of the mind into just being here with your breath, the breath kind of anchoring us in the present. If you're dealing with strong emotions, difficult emotions, it might be helpful to do a heart practice, maybe just a short period of loving kindness, of wishing yourself well, or self-compassion, caring about this difficulty, this suffering. Finish with this poem called Walk Slowly by Dana Folds. It only takes a reminder to breathe, a moment to be still, and just like that, something in me settles, softens, makes space for imperfection. The harsh voice of judgment drops to a whisper, and I remember again that life isn't a relay race, that we will all cross the finish line. that waking up to life is what we were born for. As many times as I forget, catch myself charging forward without even knowing where I'm going, that many times I can make the choice to stop, to breathe, to be, and walk slowly into the mystery. So I hope that you got something perhaps out of that meditation and some insight about how we can use our attention, and perhaps how powerful it can be to recognize that we can move attention in these ways. To, what happens when I do place my attention here? What happens when I move my attention somewhere else? Does it lead to happiness, to well-being, to greater freedom? So I want to talk just briefly on this theme, to share a few excuse me, a few reflections. So the theme really is, put one way, it's the power of attention. You could almost call it the superpower of attention, because it really is a kind of a doorway to some significant insight and greater freedom and happiness and well-being. In another way, we could call it the power of compassionate awareness, which kind of puts it in a broader frame. Not just looking at the attention part, but also the quality of attention. And just beginning by saying that, we're using our attention all the time. When the phone rings, typically our attention gets shifted, gets moved. We move from what we're doing, at least for a moment, to say, oh, I wonder who that is, or listened if you've got the, whatever that thing is, where they tell you in incomprehensible words who the person is that's talking, and you have to try and work out who that is. Or you let it go to voicemail or whatever. So, when somebody calls our name, our attention, goes there from whatever it is that we're doing. And it's it's great that we have this capacity to be able to kind of put our attention where we most need it, where it's going to be most useful to us. But as we all know, we are often put our attention into directions and into areas that aren't useful for us. You could think about where, if we're feeling anxious and, we're thinking, I've got so much work to do, or that, things aren't working out right. And then, one anxious thought leads to another anxious thought, and you get more worried and the body gets more tense and you get caught up in that. What you're doing there is you're using your attention. We're using our attention in ways that, is actually making us unhappy, more stressed, more anxious, etc. So we can use our attention in ways often, and we often do, in ways that aren't helpful. We're feeling bored, let's say, and we think, oh, we don't actually often say, oh, I'm feeling bored, what shall I do? But unconsciously what's going on is, we're feeling bored, or we're feeling uncertain about things. And we maybe just gravitate to the kitchen and, get a cookie, or get something sweet, or get something that'll kind of give us a little feeling of, comfort, because we're feeling uncomfortable, or we're feeling stressed or worried, etc. And a lot of the time our attention is pulled in these ways. It's pulled by our habits, our unconscious habits. We go down those paths because we've been down them hundreds of times before. Anxiety or stress, those are habits of thinking that we've just we've just dug those grooves over and over by going down them, and then we keep going down them, and we often think we don't even have an alternative to going down there because, well, I'm just feeling anxious. What else can I do except worry and all of that? The other way we use attention in ways that aren't helpful to us is where we just follow whatever the signals that are coming in from the world. I think of it particularly our online world where, all of these things are tending to call for our attention. They're all saying, look at this. This is, these lights and these buzzers and things. And we're a little bit like, at times can be like the rat in the, in the laboratory, with this being kind of, a light goes off here and they move over here. And we're a little bit like that, we're kind of, following the signals that are coming from others and from the world. Somebody shared in a talk I heard recently that a term for emails, which can be a way we get pulled into things. They called it other people's agenda. Other people's agenda. We're getting these emails in and we're responding, oh, this one's got here. Oh no, this one here. And I go here. And again, it's a little bit like that. We're going, and often if we're not aware, we're just going, we're following the other people's, the world's agenda, the world's agenda, rather than our own, our own intentions and our own priorities. So it's extraordinarily important to be able to come back and ask ourselves, what's a useful way, or what's a useful use of our attention, of my attention right now? What would it be helpful for me to be doing right now? Is it doing this? Is it just kind of lost in thought or checking things online or following things around? Sometimes that might be perfectly okay. But it's when our life is really pulled along in ways that aren't helpful to us. That's when, attention calls for our attention. We're caught. It really is valuable for us to come back really, beyond attention to intention. What is my intention? What is helpful? What's important to me? Just to remember what, as they say in Zen, the most important thing is to remember the most important thing. It's kind of like, coming back to what's important. And then when we do that, we can choose where we put our attention. We can kind of consciously say, okay, what's important for me now is to get this project done that I'm working on. I've got an article to write, let's say, or, there's some urgent emails I need to, I've put off for a couple of days or whatever. I do need to take care of them. Okay, I put aside time to do that. Otherwise, what we do is we get pulled along by habits. And as probably many of you know, this is a big area for me, has been for probably almost a decade now, how harmful, how we can get caught up in harmful habits, and how through the wise use of attention, through mindfulness, we can let go of unhelpful, unskillful, unhelpful, unhealthy habits, and how we can consciously, with intention and by paying attention, we can develop more helpful habits. You could call more helpful habits more helpful ways of using attention. So I think at the core, attention is a key to our happiness and freedom. Attention is a skill that we can cultivate. This is really probably the most important thing I'll say, is that attention is a skill that we can cultivate. It's not just a given. If we don't cultivate it, then what will happen is we will be swept around by, the demands of the world or by our own unconscious habits. And it will not be pretty. it will not be helpful. It will not lead to, ultimately it will not, I can almost bet it will not lead to our happiness and well-being. Being conscious about attention, I think, is really essential. Now, we maybe with enough consciousness of attention, then we can get to, states where we really don't need to put a lot of attention into our use of attention, because we've developed habitual ways of being really present. But in order to get there, we really need to use attention. We really need to invest in attention. William James, the renowned psychologist who was writing in the late 19th century, so this is 130 years ago, back in 1890, he said, he's got the father of modern Western psychology, it's often referred to as the faculty of bringing back a wandering attention over and over again, which is something obviously we do in meditation, is the very root of judgment, character, and will. Very root of judgment, character, and will. An education which should improve this faculty would be the education par excellence. So the cultivating this ability to bring back a wandering attention, he says, is probably the most important skill in an education. I don't imagine back then he was a meditator, but he was certainly, he realized something that's really important, that is really a key element of meditation. It's about where am I putting my attention, and is this helpful for me right now? As I was saying in the meditation, if you're feeling, difficult, if you're experiencing difficult emotions, it might be, rather than just being mindful, you could begin with that, but it might be an invitation to bring in, another kind of meditation, a self-compassion or a loving kindness meditation. So choosing how we use our attention is at the core of our meditation practice. The way I think of it is that, like, when we're paying attention to our experience, we're really putting a spotlight on our experience. We're noticing what's present. So as I'm talking right now, you can be noticing what's present in your body, what's going on in your mind right now. What am I aware of? And just to any moment we can, like, okay, where is my attention right now? And if it's somewhere else, we can bring it back. That bringing back that wandering attention. So what we're doing is we're noticing what's present, and in doing that, we can begin to untangle the tangles of our lives. I've spoken in other times, and other teachers speak, this kind of untangling the tangles. I think that image is one that probably most of us can recognize, where we get tangled up in stress, tangled up in worry, tangled up in obligations, just kind of all things, emotions, mind states, bodily feelings, all kind of caught up, particularly when we're stressed, because that's all of these things together. So we can begin to untangle the tangles. We say, okay, noticing lots of anxious thoughts. Okay, notice that. Notice tightness in my body. Okay, notice that. Notice my breathing is short and shallow. Maybe deepen that and relax. And so just in doing that, we're kind of stepping out of the tangles, stepping out of the stresses of our lives. And we're also bringing, as I was mentioning before, we're bringing into awareness what was unconscious before. That you can think of it as our consciousness more broadly. We could think of it as like a circle with a line right down the middle. And underneath the line, beneath the line, is what's unconscious or subconscious. And what's above the line is what's conscious. Our habits, just to give one example, are typically unconscious. Once we've developed them, they've moved into the unconscious, the automatic. And that's okay if we're talking about the habit of putting on a seatbelt or brushing our teeth after a meal or whatever, those are healthy habits. And it's fine that they become unconscious, even though we want to be present while we're doing it. But we don't need to think about it every time or give a great deal of thought. It's good that they become unconscious, but a lot of our habits go below the line. And in order to really change them, we need to bring them into consciousness. We bring them into awareness. And then we can make change. We can develop healthier ones, let go of unhealthy ones. So attention is key to untangling the tangles of our lives. The attention is key to making what is unconscious conscious, bringing it above the line and choosing more helpful responses. The quality of attention has been called by a renowned professor. Some of you may be familiar with him, but maybe not everybody. He has a name that, unless you learned how to pronounce it, is probably unpronounceable. It's Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and I put his name. You might have seen it. Some of you might be very familiar with his work. But he's somebody who's written extensively on flow states. You know, the flow state where you're in a state where you're really conscious and present with what you're doing, whether it's playing a sport or skiing, could be, as we often do, doing brain surgery. You know, we want to be really present for that activity. And we can get into these states where, you know, the rest of everything else kind of fades into the background and we're extraordinarily present. And it's a wonderful experience when we get into those states, you know, and it's a wonderful way to spend much of our lives if we can cultivate those states. But he's written extensively about these states, but I'm not talking so much about the flow states right now, but he has a kind of his way of speaking about attention. He said that this quality of attention we're talking about, he talks about it as psychic energy, energy of the psyche, energy of the consciousness that allows us to, it moves us towards what we want and what benefits us. You know, it's a way of moving towards what we're intending, using this psychic energy. He says we create ourselves by how we use this energy. He says attention is the most important tool in the task of improving the quality of experience. So basically he's saying attention is the most important tool in our lives, in cultivating happiness and well-being. And I would subscribe to that as well, that if we're conscious about using our attention, and meditation is really a key aspect of this, or a key way of cultivating wise attention, compassionate attention, compassionate awareness. So the question is, we can ask ourselves at any time is, how am I using my attention right now or at any time? How am I using my psychic energy? Am I using my psychic energy on worrying about what's going to happen or getting anxious about things? And that's kind of where it's like putting fuel into the car, you know. Is that like what that's what we're fueling? We're fueling these anxious thoughts, worried thoughts. Or are we fueling judgmental thoughts? You know, oh, I'm so useless. Oh, I'm always screwing up. Oh, you know, nothing ever works out for me. If we fuel those thoughts, then that's what we're creating. That will become the quality of our lives. You know, that'll become our character and our destiny, as that saying goes: sow a thought, reap an act; sow an act, reap a habit; sow a habit, reap a character; sow a character, reap a destiny. So the way, you know, the more we fuel these thoughts, they become our actions, they become our habits, they become our character, and ultimately they become our life, they become our destiny. So how am I using this psychic energy? Am I using it to, you know, judge myself or get angry with others? Or am I consciously choosing to be present, to be here, to be aware, to be kind, to be generous, to be present for myself and for others. What is it that you want to cultivate? How is it that you want to use this psychic attention? So I've been talking psychic energy, this quality of attention. One final thing, and I've gone on with I did a longer meditation and with the talk, gone on a bit longer, I mean, today, but I think it's important to give some time to this. The thing I want to kind of close with is I'm not talking just about attention in this. I'm focusing mainly on this quality that we can cultivate. But what's an extraordinarily important aspect of this attention is that it be wise and compassionate attention. Because otherwise, it'll be the attention, the attention we use to pick somebody's pocket or burgle their house is not the kind of attention we're wanting to cultivate. We're wanting to cultivate attention that is imbued with ethics, with wise action, wise speech, wise livelihood, wise attention, wise effort, essentially the qualities of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. It needs to be imbued with these qualities. And particularly, I focus particularly on kindness to self, kindness to others. This attention, when it is compassionate, is what the French writer and philosopher who died, I think, back in 1943, Simone Weil. I hope, Claude, I'm pronouncing her, at least approximating the pronunciation of her last name. She called this attention the rarest and purest form of generosity. Because when we're using our attention and we're really paying attention to ourselves or to somebody else, we're actually we're being compassionate. We're actually being generous. Think of it. And I was speaking about this earlier with when I did my Insight Timer session earlier today. I was thinking, what came to me is the political period we're living in, particularly here in the US, where we're talking, it's like these huge Grand Canyon of chasm of division between us. And we're like, it'd be even hard to hear ourselves across the canyon. What would it be like? And what is it like when we really listen to somebody? And I think particularly somebody we may have strong disagreements with, but where we're actually really paying attention to them. We're really listening to them. We're not in the story in our mind about, oh, they're this person, they're all what, they believe this, they voted for X or Y. We're not in that head. We're actually really listening. We're caring. And in doing that, it's a really compassionate attention. What would that be? Could that be that kind of listening to each other? And not saying it's easy, particularly across the political divide in this fraught, conflictual period that we're living in right now, living through in this period. But I think it's essential. It's essential to healing the divisions. It's a long-term process. It's not a magic formula, magic bullet. But over time, we have to learn to listen to each other. And what we do when we're listening to each other is we're cultivating this quality of compassionate awareness, compassionate attention. Simone Weil said, attention taken to its highest degree is the same thing as prayer, It presupposes faith and love. She says, absolute unmixed attention is prayer. And our friend Mary Oliver, the beloved American poet who died just almost 2 years ago, exactly now, she said, attention without feeling is only a report. Attention without feeling is only a report. It's kind of a secondhand information. We're not really present. And one of the things I love about Mary Oliver's poetry is that it's really all about attention. She says in that poem, The Summer Day, I don't know what a prayer is, but I do know how to pay attention, she says. I know how to lay down in the field, walk in the field as I've been doing, all day. Tell me, no, doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? And in a sense, what she's really asking there is, what are you planning to do with your attention? With your attention right now, in this moment, this day, in this life, how am I using my attention? So, how I'm using my attention is now to look at the time and to maybe just before inviting Emily to lead us in movement, maybe just taking a minute or so to just pay attention to what's present for you, what's alive for you right now. Letting the attention come to just the range of your consciousness, body and emotions, mind. Can you meet this, what's present right now, with kindness, with acceptance, with care, with friendliness? And this is the quality of attention that we're wanting to bring into our lives, into our relationships, into our relationship with ourselves, with our being kind to our experience, being kind to our families, our loved ones, our colleagues. And how this quality of attention, of compassionate awareness can really transform our lives, transform our relationships, and ultimately, I think, transform our world. Because if we really pay attention to even people we have a deepest disagreement with, they can no longer be what Tara Brach often calls the unreal other, this kind of one-dimensional or two-dimensional person out there who, if we see them as unreal, then it's not difficult to separate from them. It's not difficult to harm them, even to not care about how they're doing or their lives. So, but if we're really paying attention, if we're really bringing this quality of compassionate awareness, it's much more difficult to ignore somebody, and even more difficult to do them harm, mental harm or physical or any other kind of harm, or push them out of our lives or out of the quality of care. So thank you for your kind attention to this sharing, kind of extra long sharing today. Invite Emily is going to lead us in some movement now, and we'll come back for some meditation, some sharing.
Let me invite you to find your feet, to rise up, and just open up into the space around you. Swaying from side to side. And then bring your arms alongside of your body. Inhale and reach up. And then cultivate the energy of the sky, the snow, the wonder of this world. And bring that to your heart. And then cultivate the energy of all of us together, our community, our Sangha, the kindness and compassion here. And bring that to your heart. And then cultivate the energy of the earth, the abundance and nourishment that we find there. and bring that to your heart. And now inhale your arms up again. Take your left wrist in your right hand. Inhale up and tilt over to the right, feeling your rib cage on the left. Take a breath in to expand your ribs. And exhale up. Switch wrists. Lengthening up with an inhale and tilt with the exhale. Breathe in here into your right rib cage. And exhale up, float your arms down. Bring them up one more time into cactus arms and allow your hands to drop. Rising up, exhale down. Last time, rising up and exhale down. Now bring your hands to your waist. Inhale, lengthen your arms away, opening up the chest, and release. Inhale, lengthen, and release. Last time, lengthen up, and release. Float your arms out, and then moving your shoulders. Last movement. Place your hands above your knees, breathing in. Exhale, lower, coming into a forward fold. Lengthening, feeling the weight of your body as it lowers down, the pull of the earth. Only going to your level of comfort here. Allowing this moment. And then place your hands back above your knees. Press on your feet and rise up. Place your hands at heart center in prayer position and release to the sky. Release to the community and to the earth. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emily. That was lovely, lovely to let our attention and our practice come into our bodies. It feels so nice to have that stretch. Thank you so much, Emily. Thank you. And could I have a very brief show of hands? We've got a limited amount of time, and I know how much many folks value the time in small group sharing. And so could you raise a hand if you're, three signals, yes, no, in between, doesn't really matter. Whether you'd like for us to get into small groups for about 12 minutes today. So if you'd like to signal, I'm seeing no, yeses. I know. What we'll do then, I'm just looking around. I'm getting a lot of yeses. So what I suggest is, for those who would like, everyone will invite everyone to go in the group, but you don't need to go in the group. So if you don't choose to, you can turn down the invitation or come back, and it will you could practice quietly till we come back. So I would suggest we do it, Pat, for about 12 minutes again, and then we'll have time to come back for a meditation. So choose what you would like to do, and we'll see you in about 12 minutes. Folks are back. So, welcome back. Please feel free to use the chat box to share anything about anything you'd like to, if you the meditation, the talk, the group sharing. Obviously, confidentially, not with, I didn't say anything today about the groups, but the understanding very much is that what happens in Las Vegas, what happens in the group stays in the, that we don't share what was shared in the group, that it's confidential. And obviously, lots of wise guidelines about how to be in the group. So please feel free though to share just overall, you enjoyed that, or you're grateful for your group participants, and anything else. And I just want to see if anyone has anything that feels like you'd really like to share or ask, and then we'll go into our final meditation together. How's everyone doing? Heavily, did you have something you want to share, please? Yep.
Will you continue to do virtual talks after the pandemic?
That's a great question. The short answer is yes. When we do go back to being in person, which maybe late summer, it won't be before then. My intention is to continue to do a kind of a hybrid thing. We have to work out the technicalities of that, but where some folks would be there. I'm assuming in the space in Tenley Town, if we go back to the center, the Iona where we were before for a while, not for very long before the pandemic hit, but that we would also have a virtual component to that at the same time. Yeah, because that's been such a rich part of this difficult period we've been in, that there's so many who've been joining from places who just wouldn't have been able to be here in person, sometimes even from other continents. So definitely want to continue with that, and we'll do everything we need to do to make that happen. All right. Thank you for that, Havli, and good to see you. And anything else feels like you'd like to, anyone like to share? And if not, we can go into the final meditation. This will naturally be relatively short, just given the time. So this will be just probably 5 or 6 minutes, but another, thing, just continuing with the theme of today about paying attention and compassionate awareness. If we have a long period of time, a whole day to meditate, or a week or a month or however long it is, that's great. And it's really powerful, as I've talked at other times, to be able to take the time. But sometimes we don't have a lot of time, but it doesn't matter, because even to pay attention for 30 seconds can be a way of coming home to ourselves, of stepping out of habitual mind, of coming, as Martha Postlethwaite says in her poem Clearing, stepping out of the dense forest of our lives, just into that space, into that clearing, into that space that Viktor Frankl spoke about as, in between the stimulus and the response is a space. And in that space lies our ability to choose. And in our ability to choose lies our growth and our freedom. That space is the essential, really, the doorway to freedom in our lives. So this, even though this is only 5 minutes, it can be a very It could be a very rich 5 minutes if you can be present for it, if we can be present. So just inviting you again to settle, let the attention kind of drop out of the thinking mode down into the body. Feel the body, feel your breath. Just feel how it is to be here. Just welcome the guests, as Rumi speaks about. You know, however, whoever, whatever they are today, can you make space for them? And maybe there's things going on in your life that, you know, cause some worry or anxiety, and that can often be the case, particularly in this difficult time, difficult health situation, difficult economic time for many people. It's natural for concerns to come up and worries to come up, but to know that we can meet them wisely. We don't have to just follow every thought that we have, every worried thought. We can just notice, come back, drop out of the stories, and just feel ourselves here, be here. Particularly come back to the body. The body is always in the present. The mind is often off somewhere else in the future, in the past, some other place than here. So coming back to the body here now. Meeting whatever is present with kindness, with acceptance, with care. And appreciating us all here together in this space of community, of this intentional space where we've all intentionally and consciously come together. You know, we may have our different motivations, but very much within a shared framework of wanting to live more freely, I think, wanting to live with less stress and worry and more ease and well-being. You know, perhaps to live less unconsciously, less habitually, and more intentionally. So feeling ourselves, all of us here together in this community, this field, this space of community. Each of us really supporting each other through our practice, through our kind attention and being present. We help support each other. You might send out a wish of loving kindness, compassion out to everyone here. May you be happy. May you be safe. May you know peace. May you live with ease and with kindness. Feeling us all here together within the larger community, the community of beings near and far, all beings. You know, in this worldwide, this community with so much suffering, so much confusion, but also so much kindness. Just thinking of the simple kindnesses that almost everybody does every day. Just of, in our driving, of, stopping and obeying the rules of the road, and as much as we can being kind to other drivers, that allows everything to function as well as it can. So much kindness in the world. We often focus on, the conflicts and the divisions and what's wrong. And just feeling ourselves here in community, and perhaps having the intention, the aspiration to help heal the suffering of the world, in whatever ways are appropriate for each one of us, in our families, with our loved ones, in our work, if we're working in our communities, in the country, in the world. Maybe consciously leaving here today with an intention of bringing kindness and as much wisdom as we can into our engagement in the world, with the intention of healing suffering in whatever way we can. Healing our world, tikkun olam. Each of us can be a bodhisattva, a being committed to the well-being of everyone, seeking to act with kindness, with care, with generosity. Feels like a day to be in nature as much as we can today, and kind of brings me back to a beloved poem of Wendell Berry, his Peace of Wild Things. It says, when despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things, who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time I rest in the grace of the world and am free. For a time I rest in the grace of the world and am free. So before we formally finish, I'd just like to share a couple of things and invite, who will be doing the announcements today, Pat? Cassie, okay, great. I'll pass it over to Cassie. I just share one thing I have coming up to put on your radar screen or calendar or whatever, if you'd like to, and that is I'm doing a day-long retreat on February 27th, which is 4 weeks from this weekend. Saturday, and it'll be a day-long retreat. I think it's called, if I remember, a day of change and hope. Day of change and hope. You know, kind of touching into whatever, you know, joy or hope we might have as we move into a new year, a new period. You know, and obviously meeting whatever's present for us with kindness and care. And I spoke a few weeks ago about, you know, the value of retreats. And this is a day-long retreat, but if you can only make half a day, you can also come. You could come for just the morning or the afternoon. That's on the website. I might be able to post that before we finish. And just to share, mainly for those who are new to the community, that all of these classes, you know, the regular classes taught by IMCW and the Center, are on the basis of dana or generosity, which is rather than being a set cost for them. And that's how the teachings have come down through over 100 generations, 2,500 years from the time of the Buddha. And you're invited, if you're able to, and if you're inclined, to make a donation to support, in this case, support the teacher. Obviously, in this case, me teaching today, Pat, I think will be putting that in the chat. So appreciate your support. And Rose sent me a direct message. She said, "Will you still have the Ireland event?" And we're going to do a retreat in Ireland. But yes, we will. But we put it off from this summer, which we don't even know if we'll be able to do it this summer. So we put it off till next summer. So if you're interested in a retreat in the west of Ireland, beautiful part of a beautiful country, you can put that on your calendar too. So